We've been talking about home canning, home jarring, so what naturally follows if you're not going to do your highly acidic product in a water bath, how about some jams and jellies? And we get these cute little jars now. I'm Chef Todd Moore. My mission is empowering people to cook without recipes. They experience the freedom to cook what they want, how they want it, the confidence to take control and try new things, the health benefits of fresh, wholesome foods, and the family-strengthening bonds of dinner time together, as well as the money they save by eating well. Live without rules, cook without recipes. It's a no-recipe lifestyle. But what we have to make first is some kind of fruit compote. And I've got some really nice big strawberries here. We're going to make a strawberry jam today and preserve it in these jars. With all my strawberries cleaned, now we've got a choice to make. How chunky do we want our jam to be? You can puree this in a food processor if you'd like to make it a lot smoother. You can cut it with a knife to cube it. What I do is put some gloves on so my hands aren't red for the rest of the day, and squeeze the heck out of them. And you can get a potato masher and do this if you want, or you can get a food mill, or any way that you'd like. I like to have a nice coarse jam. So what I'm going to do is get my hands in here and just squeeze up and bust up as much of these berries as I can. I had 2 pounds of strawberries here, but what I'm concerned about is the volume of them. I know I don't like to follow recipes, but in this instance I want a nice gelled jelly. I don't want it runny. But what I want to do is measure the volume of my strawberries so that I know how much of that pectin and how much sugar to add to it, because sugar is important. Very difficult to make a no sugar jam because the strawberries will discolor. They'll get all kind of brown and everything. You need sugar. Now, I don't have a lot of experience, to be honest with you, in low sugar jams, but there is low sugar pectins, and you can add some artificial sweetener to it where the pectin will help retain the color as well. All right, strawberries on the stove. Let's get some heat under them. And don't forget, the strawberries are going to cook down also from the heat. They're a very delicate product. Here's my packet of pectin that I've got. This is going to help with our gel. The recipe on the pectin box says 5 cups of strawberries to the entire packet. So I'm going to add 80% or so of this packet of pectin. Let's look in there a little bit more. All right. We'll add that. Stir these two together first and get the strawberries to render some of their juice before we add our sugar, so that the sugar has something to combine with. All right, there's a nice little simmer on our jam going, and you see I've got a lot more liquid. Also, look at the color here. Look what the pectin did. It made it a much brighter red color. Now, I told you I was thinking about putting, what, 4.5, 5 cups of sugar in here. I'm not comfortable with that. That just seems like a tremendous amount of sugar. Again, you need some sugar to retain the color, but a lot of what this pectin does. I have 4 cups of sugar here. Let's just call it, I'm going to add 2. You know what? If it doesn't work out, then I learned for next time what not to do. You know, I mean, we'll make this batch. I don't want it to be overly sweet, because think about that. When you have like a really sweet candy type jam, that's equally as unappetizing to one that's not so sweet. So the pectin recipe would have called for about 5 cups of sugar. I put in 2. I have the power to do that. It's my jam. I'll do whatever the heck I want. And here's what I mean by violent boil. See how it starts to foam up like that? When I stir it around and stir it down, it foams back immediately. That's what I'm looking for. A foam that cannot be stirred down. Stir it around, it should settle down. No, it doesn't. That's the indicator when we're ready to hit the jars. So let's just go ahead and fill these jars. We want to leave, again, about 1/2 inch of headspace. Whoa, that's way too much. I'll have to go back and take some of that out. Probably best to do this with a ladle. There we go, to the bottom of the rim. 1/2 inch or so of headspace. Ooh, that's too much too. And since these are small jars, I can take these wooden skewers. Remember, we want to get all excess air bubbles out of here. So I'm going to stir each of these jars with a wooden skewer. Don't use a metal skewer. Use a plastic spoon or something like that to stir as many of the excess bubbles out. Stir it around, stir it around. And now wiping the rims of the jars so we make a nice good seal around it. Anything that I've spilled or poured needs to be wiped off the lid of the jar. And our 2-part lids here have been sitting in the hot water to soften up the the rubber a little bit. Each of those lids will go on top. And banded, just barely hand tight. You don't want to bear down on them. Ooh, that's hot stuff. Oh. And then all the jars get placed back in the hot water canner. Again, making sure that there is at least 2 inches of space of hot water above them. That pressure is needed to help get the air out. Let's bring this back to a heavy boil, cover it up, give it 15 minutes. Lid on and back to a violent boil for 15 minutes or so. Add 5 minutes for every 3,000 feet that you're above sea level. But what's going on in this jar? Well, the principle that the Ball Company has been practicing for 125 years. The people have been doing this for a long time. It's very simple. Simmering it in liquid, the air, the moisture turns to steam within the jar. The 2-part lid lets the steam escape, and after 15 minutes, plus 5 for every 3,000 feet, we sit them out on the counter, cool them down, a vacuum is created. You'll hear your jars dink, 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 dink as the lid gets sucked down. If after 24 hours that lid still has some play, put it in the refrigerator. That won't be able to sit on your shelf for a long time. Find yourself in a jam?